Hi again. This is the second class in helping young children sleep, and this is segment 5. And I'm going to talk now about children's emotional projects, because sleep is very often what we call an emotional project. If after 3 or 4 nights of stay listening to your child, as they wake in the night, they don't settle back down, they're still waking and they're still waking, and you're doing stay listening and you're doing play listening during the day, and you're learning to listen to your child's upsets more and more thoroughly, but they still wake in the night. It's because what they're working on is a larger upset that simply can't resolve quickly. And for whatever reason, you're one of the parents of millions of us that has been chosen to help your child work on the biggest feelings they have in the middle of the night. Some children work on their biggest feelings at nap time. Some children work on their biggest feelings at transition time. Some children work on their biggest feelings when, mommy or daddy go to work or they go to daycare. Some children work on their biggest feelings wanting somebody else's toy. Some children work on their biggest feelings around mealtime. But your child has chosen the middle of the night, and I'm really very sorry about that. And what it means, though, is that your child is doing good work and that you've figured out how to really be of help, because they are waking up asking for your help again and again and again. But it also means that you need help getting a good night's sleep, at least some of the time. So that means kind of call in the troops. That means that this is not something that you should just grit your teeth and kind of, trudge through, figuring, life is hard and why is it never easy for me, and why do I have to have a child who chooses the middle of the night, to feel insecure? Why can't he choose 2 in the afternoon? It's like what you want to do is get listening time so that you're able to work on the feelings of wanting life to be better, the feelings of, whatever it is that comes up around your child, and really wanting the best for him or her, and seeing how difficult these feelings are for him or her. You really want an emotional outlet for you on a regular basis. And you also may want to bring in a friend or have a spouse, take the night shift every other night. You may want to get noise-canceling earphones and figure out how to sleep with those, or a good set of earplugs. You may want to set your sleeping bag up outside if you're in a climate that allows that, so that you're sleeping away from all of the noise every other night. You might want to call in a relative or hire a babysitter to sleep at your house and wake up in the night. All of these are, extreme measures, but to preserve your ability to think during the day and to preserve your patience and your happiness with the job of parenting, it's totally worth it to get help. So most of us parents feel like we shouldn't be asking for help. There's something wrong with us if we need help. We ought to be able to figure it out ourselves. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Parenting is not a job that is easily done by oneself. It's not a job that is well done by oneself. Even if you're a single parent, you need friends, you need allies, you need people who can spell you need respite. You do need a chance to take good care of yourself. This is really one of the big favors you can do to your child as a parent, even if they're really upset when you leave. Getting time for respite, time to take care of yourself, time to take care of your health and do things you enjoy, is part of what allows you to enjoy the work of parenting and to enjoy the relationship that you have with your child. So reach out for help, in particular so that you can get better sleep, or at least get some nap time. I know when I was working in an office, I used to just close my office door at lunchtime and lie down on the carpet, which had a pile of, maybe that it was a very hard floor, but a little tiny bit of carpet on it. I'd, sort of plump up my jacket, put it under my head and go to sleep just as fast as I could, because it was one way that I could really refresh myself and do a better job at parenting once I was back with my children again. So do get help if your child is having an emotional project that involves waking in the night over an extended period of time. The thing that you also want to do, I mentioned in the last segment, which is you want to check for times during the day when you accommodate your child, when you fix it so that your child doesn't have a tantrum, doesn't get upset, And so the times when parents often do this are, okay, you don't have to put on your clothes. You can run around, without your clothes on. Or, okay, you don't have to put your shoes on. You can go barefoot. Or, okay, you don't have to eat at the table. You can just, we'll put food out here and you can just walk by and eat it. You don't have to sit down with us. They make sure that when other children come over, there's no toys out so that their own child doesn't get upset by the other child touching their toys, because that would spark big feelings. It's like you want to put toys out, you want to tell your child, sweetie, Tommy's coming over and he's probably going to want to touch your toys, and I will help you. When he touches your toys and it's hard, I'll be right with you. So you let your child know that you will help them with the feelings that come up, instead of trying to make it so that there's no toys and no disputes and no crying or upsets. So catching on to when feelings come up for your child and finding ways to stop accommodating and start listening will really help your child get through their emotional project faster. It's a really good thing to notice. It's just when a limit is really kinder than trying to make it all okay and get through without a tantrum or without a cry. Play listening is an important antidote to fear. It's a very important antidote to fear. So the more laughter you can get going with your child without tickling, without scaring them, the more confident your child will become. And play listening and special time both sort of adjust the power balance. It's like when your child is wanting to nurse or wanting to get in bed with you in the middle of the night and you're saying, no, sweetie, this is your bed. I'm not going to feed you until 4 this morning. You can make it. I'm right here with you. You're setting the limit. You're taking control of the situation. You are, in a sense, triggering the feelings that they need to work on, and they can't do anything about it. And it's really good in a parent-child relationship to have ways to adjust the power balance, so that if you're doing this for half an hour every night before your child can go back to sleep, what you want to do is try to find a half an hour during the day when you can either give them special time, you announce it, you tell them it's special time, you tell them you'll do what they want, and then you do what they want, and you pay really good warm attention with them in charge. Or you do a good half hour of play listening. You don't have to announce that, but you just get play going, get laughter going, and you keep at it so that there's that mutual delight in which your child generally has the upper hand. Your child is generally winning the contest. And that really readjusts the power balance so that your child feels encouraged about their strength, encouraged about your faith in their judgment, encouraged about the fact that you can listen and you can follow their lead. And that adjusts for the fact that you're setting limits in the middle of the night, you're setting an expectation, and you are, in essence, kind of allowing the trigger, to be pulled on the big feelings that they have that they would really rather not have to re-feel. And I'll also say what progress looks like is not what you might expect. It's like progress is not necessarily that your child stops crying all of a sudden, although that will eventually happen. Progress with a big emotional project, especially with a child who had a difficult start or a difficult thing happen in their lives, progress is the child having longer and longer periods of time between great, big, passionate cries, great, big, physical work on fear, lots of arching and sweating and shutting of the eyes and yelling and kicking and screaming. So you don't see that kind of emotional episode go away, but the length of time between those emotional episodes begins to stretch out. And what happens is that your child has this chunk of emotional work to do. And every time you listen, you're biting off a little corner of that chunk and getting rid of it. Your child is getting rid of it, you're assisting. And so every time your child wakes in the night, he takes another little bit off of this big chunk of fear, works it through, you help, you reassure, and that fear is dispelled. But there's still this big chunk here. And when your child dispels that chunk of fear, they're able to function better. There's less fear in their emotional memory that their mind, the flexible part of their intelligence, has to turn and manage. So more of their intelligence can go towards being friendly, being open to people, being exuberant, exploring confidently, talking, running, learning to ride their bike, just looking you relaxedly in the eye. So the things to look for in order to figure out if your child is making progress are, what does your child look like the morning after? Now, if your child went raggedly into sleep, your child is going to look like a mess the morning after until they've had the rest of the cry that they were engaged in, and then their intelligence probably will brighten up. Is your child an easier child to be with? Are they a little more flexible than they were before? Are they a little more resistant to the being triggered into big feelings? Are they a little more sturdy in that way? Can they look at you more often? Do they show more affection? Are they more open to other people? Are they becoming less scared in situations that challenge them? Can they tell you a little more what's going on? Those are signs that your child is making progress. And what you'll see is longer stretches between big emotional episodes. And those big emotional episodes probably will continue to be fully passionate, very physical, full of sweat and kicking and writhing and the physical motion that goes along with, I have to fight for my life. I've got to fight for my life. That's really what they're doing. They're back in there fighting for their lives, and they need to do it with every muscle that they've got, with all the power that they've accumulated. And you need to keep yourself safe, keep them from kicking you or hurting you or scratching you. So you set the limits. If they're trying to scratch, you put your hands over their fingernails and you move with them so they can still fight, but you don't let those fingernails get anywhere near your face or your neck. You can give them some resistance, but you don't pin them down. It's like, I'll have none of that. You don't do that at all. You give them a place to fight. And this is talked about in the booklet called Healing Children's Fears that you have. And you should probably go over that booklet a few times to really grasp it as you get experience with your child's way of working on fear, so that you're kind of getting all the information that's in there. So you do those things, and every time your child goes in and works on this, the fear that comes from whatever the difficult experience was, it's going to look like that. It's not, that isn't going to change. Like, it's going to look like that today, and a year from now, when his feelings are triggered and he goes back in to work on another piece of that large chunk of fear, it's going to look like that again. So that part won't change. The flavor of the fear, the way the fear grips them, the feeling that they get of having to fight for their lives, even if there's only one more hour of work to do on that great big fear after many times of helping them and shrinking the feeling, even if there's one more hour to do, it's still going to be fighting for their life during that hour. It's still going to be hating you, thinking that you're the worst thing, thinking that you're hurting them. It's like it's going to be full out, down to the very last drop of that fear, because that is the nature of fear. That is the fear that they felt at that very moment, and no matter how much they work on it, all the way through, that fear is going to look that way. But you're going to see longer and longer times between their needing to work on that in that way, and you're going to see fuller and fuller cooperation, fuller and fuller empathy for others, fuller and fuller ability to engage, fuller and fuller use of your child's intelligence, and fuller and fuller ability to tell you how they are. To tell you, Daddy, I need special time. I need special time today. Because they can feel themselves getting out of connection, and they know they don't want to go there, and they know that special time helps. So they will be able to signal you better and better what's going on with them and how you can help. You will be partnering with them more and more as time goes on, as you learn these tools and learn to use them well with your child. So that's what progress will look like. And you on your end will be progressing too, because you'll be working on the regrets that you have about the way things have gone in your child's life, the things that you couldn't prevent from happening, the places where you feel guilty, the places where you feel angry, the places where you feel alone. And as you work on your feelings, you won't be feeling quite so alone, quite so angry, quite so guilty, quite so upset about, the ways that you couldn't make life perfect for yourself or your child. And as that happens, you're going to become more aware of your child. You and your child are going to really improve the communication back and forth much better. You'll be much better able to see when your child is heading for an upset, much better able to connect with them before they get there, so that if they need to have that upset, they'll have it connected with you, rather than having strung themselves out, into a really frantic and awful place before they can finally get to their tears and get to the work they need to do. So I'll tell you an anecdote about an emotional project that one of our instructors had with her daughter. This instructor is a single mom. She didn't start out that way, but she and her husband separated when her child was about 3, I believe. And by this time she was 6 and couldn't sleep alone, was very afraid to sleep alone. And our instructor thought, I'm going to really try to help her with these big fears about sleeping alone. She's 6 and it's time to help her with this. So what she did was to tell her daughter, sweetie, I'm bringing a mattress in, I'm going to put it in the bedroom here, and I'm going to sleep right over here, 3 feet from where her daughter's bed was. I'm going to sleep over here, and you get to keep sleeping in this bed. And her daughter cried at the idea. So the mom listened. And that night, the mom, did bedtime routine and then sat on her daughter's bed and said, okay, now I'm going to move over to my bed over there. And her daughter had a big cry. I think she cried for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. Great big cry, no, Mama, please don't go, please. And she was clinging and begging, not wanting to be left in bed alone. And so after that cry, I think what the mom decided to do, because the daughter couldn't say, okay, go ahead over into that bed, was, all right, tonight I'll lie down next to you and we'll work on this tomorrow. I'll help you with it some more. So she went ahead and lay down with her daughter so her daughter could go to sleep, and so she wouldn't have to force the issue on her daughter. She figured 40 minutes is a really good amount of listening. I don't want to listen anymore. We'll just do what we used to do. The next night, her daughter cried even harder at the prospect of her mom going over to, moving from her bed to the bed over there. And she was sweaty this time, and she was, more active this time. And the mom listened again, and still the daughter couldn't say, okay, Mama, go to that other bed. So they did another long stay listening session, and the mom did sleep with the daughter. The third night, her child was just clawing at her. Her child was trying to hurt her. Her child was like fighting for her life. There was really a big change, lots of sweating, lots of trembling, lots of screaming, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then about 20 minutes in or half an hour in, her daughter said, Mommy, my bee sting hurts, my bee sting hurts, and her mom said, oh, I'm so sorry. And her mom thought, oh my gosh, she must be working on fear from getting stung this summer, 3 months ago. I'll put my hand on her leg where she got stung. And so their mom said, oh, here, sweetie, I'll rub that spot. And put her hand on her leg where she'd been stung. And she looked at her mommy and said, no, Mommy, no, my bee sting here. And pointed to the back of her right hand. Here's the bee sting. And she was crying and sweating and thrashing. And the mom was thinking, what is this about a bee sting? She never got stung on her hand. She's only been stung once. It was on her leg. she's misremembering. And then after about a minute or two, and her daughter was frantic, "Mommy, Mommy, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Mommy, please, it hurts." It just all of a sudden dawned on our instructor that, oh my gosh, when she was less than 12 hours old, she got jaundice and she needed to have an IV. And the nurse who was doing the IV was inserting it on her right hand and made 6 false stabs on her hand before she finally got the vein. And our instructor said it was just the awfulest thing to watch. My baby screaming and being poked again and again and again and again in the same place while this nurse was trying to find a vein. And the nurse finally found it, but that was just really the hardest part of this medical treatment that her day-old baby had gone through. And so it became very clear to this mom that, oh my gosh, she's working on the day she was born and what the doctors had to do, because the bee sting was very, very definitely on the back of her right hand. So I think after that big, fighting, sweating, trembling, wild with fear cry, when it was over, she held her daughter for quite a while, and just stroked her head and told her she'd done a really good job, and her daughter finally said, "Mommy, you can go to the other bed now. It's fine." And so she lay her daughter down. By that point, she didn't really want to go to the other bed. She's like, "Oh, I need to be with her." But she decided to trust her daughter's judgment. She went 3 feet away, lay down in the other bed, and her daughter was asleep in 30 seconds. And they didn't have trouble with sleep after that. Now that is a short emotional project. That is like 3 nights in a row. The daughter was able to show the mom what the real core issue was able to work on this really early, terrifying experience, was able to get through it in 3 nights, and sleep was really not an issue after that. For children who have bigger issues, you may not get the information from your child about what this is all about quite so clearly, but trust that it's about something important. Trust that your child would not be crying. They would be sleeping like a baby who had no troubles if something hard hadn't happened to them. If they didn't have this chunk of fear to work through. You can trust your child's process. You can trust yourself to guide your child through it. And you can trust that there will be very good outcomes. So, thanks. We have an article called What to Say During Stay Listening that kind of goes over the kinds of things to say to your child while he or she is in the throes of big, old feelings, while they're challenged by sleep, what to say, how to talk to them. Yeah, but mostly it's really listening. It's receiving what they're telling you. So thanks. It takes some bravery to do this work. I congratulate you on even considering it, and get a listening partnership time if you're really scared to do this before you try it. You need help as much as your child does. Thanks.